The last day of school always felt strange. Not exciting, not really, just empty, like the building itself knew everyone was about to leave for 3 months. That year, classes ended at noon. By 12:15, the parking lot was already half empty. Buses were pulling away, and students were flooding towards summer freedom. I was halfway home when I realized my mistake. My house keys, still locked inside my gym locker. I remember groaning and turning my bike around. It should have taken 5 minutes. Instead, it became the reason I still hate empty school buildings. When I returned, the campus looked abandoned. The front office was dark. The flags had already been lowered. Even the custodian seemed to have disappeared. The main entrance was still unlocked, so I slipped inside and headed toward the gym wing. Every footstep echoed. The silence felt wrong. Schools aren't supposed to be quiet. Even after hours, there's usually someone talking, cleaning, moving furniture. Not that day. The building sounded hollow, like a shell. I reached the locker room and immediately noticed the lights had been dimmed to emergency mode. Long shadows stretched between rows of metal lockers. The air smelled faintly of chlorine and old sweat. I walked straight to my locker. Combination. Click. Open. No keys. My stomach sank. Then I remembered I'd stuffed them into my gym bag that morning. I knelt down and started digging through the mess of clothes and notebooks. That's when I heard the doors. Clunk. The heavy fire doors at the far end of the hallway slammed shut. A second later came the sound of locking mechanisms engaging, metal on metal, loud, final. I stood up immediately. "Hello?" No answer. I stepped into the hallway. The corridor beyond was empty, completely empty. The fire doors stood closed at both ends now. I walked toward the nearest one and pulled the handle. Locked. I pulled harder. Nothing. A cold feeling settled into my chest. Someone must have activated the summer security lockdown early. I pulled out my phone. No signal, not even one bar, which made absolutely no sense. Then I heard water, a single shower turning on. Shh. The sound echoed from the communal shower room. I frowned. Motion sensors, probably a custodian. I called out. No answer. Then another shower activated. Shh. A few seconds later, another. Then another. The showers weren't turning on randomly. They were activating one after another, in sequence, like something was moving through them. Closer, closer, closer. I backed away. The next shower activated, only 3 stalls away now. The water pressure sounded heavier somehow, violent, as though something enormous stood beneath it. I turned and walked quickly back toward the lockers. The next shower came on immediately, then another, following. The pattern never stopped. Each time I moved away, the water advanced, like it knew exactly where I was. I grabbed my bag and started running. The locker room lights flickered. The sound of water echoed behind me. Then came footsteps. Not from the hallway, from inside the showers. Heavy, bare feet slapping against wet tile. One step, another, another. I glanced back. The last shower had activated, the one closest to the entrance. Water cascaded onto the floor, and standing behind the curtain, I could see a silhouette, tall, motionless, impossible to make out through the spray. The figure slowly raised one arm. The curtain hooks rattled softly. My entire body locked up. Then the curtain began sliding open. I sprinted straight for the emergency exit beside the gym. The footsteps exploded behind me, fast now, splashing, running, the sound of soaked feet slamming against concrete. I never looked back. I hit the crash bar so hard I nearly broke my wrist. The door burst open. Sunlight flooded over me. The sounds stopped instantly. Gone, like someone had flipped a switch. I stumbled into the parking lot, gasping for air. A custodian found me 20 minutes later, sitting on the curb. According to him, the building's water system had been shut off since 11 that morning. No showers could have activated. No motion sensors were operational. No one else was inside. But before I left, I checked my gym bag one last time. My keys were exactly where I'd first looked, right on top, impossible to miss. And tangled around the keyring was something else, a long strand of black hair, still dripping water onto my hand. The first morning of summer vacation felt like freedom. No alarm clocks, no homework, no teachers, just endless weeks stretching ahead like an adventure waiting to happen. I was 12 that year, and my friends Tyler, Mason, and I had one goal for the summer: build the greatest fort our neighborhood had ever seen. The woods behind our houses stretched for miles, thick with pine trees and old hiking trails nobody used anymore. We picked a clearing near a dried-up creek and spent the entire morning hauling lumber, rope, and tools into the forest. By noon, we decided the fort needed a trench around it, something military style. At least that's what Tyler called it. So we started digging. About 20 minutes later, Mason's shovel hit metal. Clang! The sound echoed strangely through the woods. We all stopped. The blade struck something flat beneath the dirt. At first, we thought it was an old sheet of scrap metal. Then we uncovered more of it, a rusted iron hatch, huge, at least 6 feet across, completely buried beneath decades of pine needles and soil. The strangest part wasn't the hatch itself, it was what had been painted on top, a faded hopscotch grid, the kind elementary school kids draw on playground asphalt. The numbers were barely visible beneath the rust, but they were still there, leading toward the center of the hatch. None of us spoke for a moment. The sight felt wrong somehow, like finding a playground buried in a graveyard. Naturally, we opened it. That's what 12-year-old boys do. The hatch weighed a ton. It took all 3 of us pulling together before it finally groaned open. A blast of cold air surged upward. Not cool forest air, artificial cold, like stepping into an air-conditioned building. I leaned over first and immediately wished I hadn't. A concrete ladder descended into darkness, far deeper than any storm shelter should have gone. The beam from my flashlight vanished before reaching the bottom. The shaft seemed endless. Then we heard the bell. Ring, ring, ring. Every one of us froze. The sound echoed up the ladder from somewhere far below. A school bell, the exact bell our middle school used between classes. My stomach twisted. Summer vacation had started less than 24 hours ago. The last thing any of us wanted to hear was that bell. Tyler laughed nervously. "That's impossible." Nobody disagreed, because we all knew it was. Curiosity won anyway. We climbed down. The ladder seemed to go on forever. 30 feet, 40, maybe more. The deeper we descended, the colder it became. Finally, my flashlight reached the bottom, and I nearly fell off the ladder. It was our school. Not similar, not inspired by it, exactly our school. The main hallway stretched in both directions beneath the earth. The same lockers, the same trophy cases, the same faded school colors painted along the walls, even the same motivational posters, everything. Except there were no windows, no doors leading outside, just endless fluorescent lights humming softly overhead. The place looked abandoned, dust coated every surface, yet everything appeared untouched, waiting. We stepped into the hallway. The silence felt heavy, the kind that presses against your ears. Then another bell rang somewhere in the distance, closer this time. Ring, ring, ring. A classroom door slowly opened near the far end of the hall. Nobody stood there, yet we could hear movement inside. Desks scraping, books opening, children whispering. I exchanged a nervous glance with Mason. We should leave. Nobody argued. Then we noticed the lockers. Every locker door stood slightly open, and taped to each one was a class photo. Our class photo. Every student from our grade, including us. The pictures looked normal until I reached mine. My face was crossed out with red marker. Underneath, someone had written, "Absent first day of summer school." The fluorescent lights flickered. Every classroom door in the hallway suddenly opened at once. Bang! The whispers stopped. Complete silence. Then hundreds of footsteps began walking towards us from inside the rooms. Not running, walking, slowly, in perfect unison. We didn't wait to see what was coming. We sprinted for the ladder. The footsteps followed, getting faster, closer, echoing through the underground school. I remember grabbing the rungs and climbing so hard my hands bled. Below us, the footsteps reached the base of the ladder. Something started climbing after us, fast, far faster than any person could move. We slammed the hatch shut behind us and threw our weight against it. The thing underneath hit the metal hard enough to shake the ground. Once, twice, then silence. We never told our parents. Nobody would have believed us. The next day we returned with cameras. The hatch was gone. Not hidden, gone. The forest floor looked untouched. No trench, no disturbed soil, nothing. As though it had never existed. The three of us rarely talk about that summer anymore, but every year, on the first morning of vacation, I wake up at exactly 8 a.m. to the sound of a school bell, and for a few seconds before I'm fully awake, I can hear hundreds of students walking through hallways somewhere beneath the ground, still attending classes, still waiting for the 4 kids who skipped the first day of summer school forever. The first week of summer vacation was supposed to be easy money. My uncle was the head custodian at our local high school, and every June he hired a few students to help clean classrooms, move furniture, and prepare the building for maintenance crews. The work was boring, but it paid cash. At 16, that was enough for me. Most days were spent hauling desks and scraping gum off the bottoms of chairs. The school felt completely different without students. Empty hallways stretched endlessly. Lockers stood open like rows of metal mouths. Every sound echoed farther than it should. It felt abandoned, not dead, just waiting. One afternoon, my uncle assigned me to clean an old history classroom on the 2nd floor. The teacher had retired unexpectedly during the spring semester, and the room had been left untouched since the last day of school. Dust coated the desks, old worksheets littered the floor. The place smelled like paper and stale air. I started emptying the desks one by one, tossing forgotten notebooks and pencils into a trash bag. Then I found the list. A black spiral notebook stuffed into the back corner of a desk drawer. At first glance, it looked completely ordinary. The cover simply read, "Summer Break Plans." I opened it. Inside was a checklist dated for the final day of school. The first entries were normal. Go swimming, sleep until noon, ride bikes with friends, watch fireworks. Typical summer stuff. I almost threw it away. Then I noticed the handwriting changed halfway down the page. The pen pressure became heavier, more deliberate. The next item read, July 3rd, watch him leave for basketball practice at 8:15 a.m. I frowned. The next line made my stomach tighten. July 4th, he stays home until 11:40 a.m. I kept reading. My mouth went dry. Every item referred to me, not by name, just him. But the details were impossible to mistake. July 7th, he eats lunch alone while parents are at work. July 10th, window unlocked. July 12th, bedroom light remains on until 1:14 a.m. July 15th, he checks under the bed. A chill crawled down my arms. I flipped through the remaining pages. There were dozens of entries, weeks' worth. Every single one described events that hadn't happened yet. Future dates, future routines, future moments when I would supposedly be alone. The final page stopped me cold. At the very bottom was one last checklist item, written darker than the rest, as if the writer had gone over it repeatedly. Make sure he doesn't see me under the bed. I laughed, not because it was funny, because my brain didn't know what else to do. Somebody was playing a joke, had to be. I stuffed the notebook into my backpack and finished my shift, but the uneasy feeling followed me home. That night, I checked the first future entry, July 3rd, watch him leave for basketball practice at 8:15 a.m. The next morning, I left for practice at exactly 8:15, not because I planned to, because that's when I always left. The notebook was right. I told myself it was coincidence. Then another prediction came true, then another, then another. Every day, Every item perfectly accurate. The notebook knew things nobody should know. Tiny details, the exact time I'd open the refrigerator, the route I'd take while walking my dog, when my parents would be gone, when I'd be alone. Always right. By the end of July, I barely slept. Every creak in the house made me jump. Every shadow looked wrong, and every night before bed I checked beneath the mattress. Nothing, just dust. The notebook's final entry remained unchecked, waiting. On August 2nd, I came home from a friend's house and found the notebook open on my desk. I was certain I'd left it inside a locked drawer. The final page stared up at me. The last item now had a check mark beside it, a fresh one, made in wet black ink. My hands began shaking. Then I noticed something else. A new line had appeared beneath it, one I had never seen before. The handwriting matched perfectly. He finally looked in the wrong place. I didn't understand until I glanced toward my bedroom mirror and saw the reflection. Not under the bed, not behind me, inside the closet. A figure crouched silently among the hanging clothes, watching, waiting, and smiling because I had spent the entire summer checking the place it wanted me to look.